voters are delusional, or Trump voters, are crazy, or that Trump voters are in an alternate reality. Okay, let me set the record straight. All Trump voters are not crazy. That's the first thing. Now I'm going to go two different ways with that same statement. So that statement, all Trump voters are not crazy, is important for you to understand that that statement can go two ways. The first one is the groups, the extremist groups that were hidden in the crowds that went down to the Capitol and breached the Capitol building, searching and looking to hold hostage the Senate and Congress. Okay? The extremist groups that went down there are not crazy. So you can't plead insanity for them. They knew exactly what they were doing. It was coordinated attack. It was a coordinated effort. They're not crazy. These people come from the military background. They come from law enforcement. They knew exactly what they were doing. Some of the people that went down there were brainwashed into doing that, and they're living to regret it today. And then some of the people that went down there were not militia, they were not military. They understood what they were going to do. They understood what was happening, but they didn't have the full picture of what was going to be the result of that. They didn't understand how severe it was. They didn't understand. They knew what they were going to do was illegal, but they were going to do it because they felt they were making a statement of some kind. They were not delusional. Some were partially misinformed because they didn't understand the full consequences. They knew what they were going to do. They knew why they were going to do it. They knew better. They knew Donald Trump, this is not the procedure. This is not the way to go. They understood that the election was not stolen, but they went down there to make a statement to Congress. Okay? All right. So once that is understood, and I looked at the interviews. That's how I knew this. And they saw Donald Trump as an outlet to be able to do that. But they didn't understand the full consequence of what they did. They didn't understand how serious it was. They had a cognition of it, but they didn't understand until they started living it. Okay. Because obviously they went inside of the Capitol building and they came out the Capitol building unscathed, and not a big deal seemed to have been made of it, right? Okay. Some people felt they were making a political statement, and they wanted to be involved in that hype. So there was all those different kinds of people. The brainwashed ones, we had people who knew better, but they didn't understand the full consequence of what they were doing and how serious it was. And then there were the people who deliberately did this and were using it as a strategic notion to send a strategic message. Okay, fine. So we understand this now. So this is why I said, yes, there were some people, there are some Trump voters who are misinformed. There are some Trump voters who are under the cult, or should I say brainwashed by Donald Trump and his minions and Fox News. But there are also others who know better. Okay? And they've chosen the path that they're going. All right. So this is what I mean by they're not clueless. They're not mad. They're not crazy. You know, people like to say crazy white guy, so they can put him in a home instead of putting him in prison, right? Right now they're saying Trump is crazy. Well, he's not really. He's not really crazy. He's just a guy that has his own way, and he doesn't seem to always experience consequence. And as a result of that, he's been his own man. He's been doing things his own way, and he's not going to change. He's bullheaded, but he's not stupid. And we know this because he went and made a statement afterwards to save his hide, after he had said that the people are special. They went to go down to the. So I just want to make that about it. Now, those are the people that went to the Capitol. Now, there are many Trump supporters, much more than millions of Trump people who voted for Trump. I'm not saying they're Trump supporters, but they voted for Trump. And they did not vote for Trump because he was a stellar person. They did not vote for Trump because they were ignorant of what he had done and the evils he had done. They voted for Trump because they thought he would shake up change, and also, in addition, that he could get the Republican agenda done. Okay. A lot of those people right now are rethinking their position. A lot of those people want to distance themselves from him. A lot of these people regret that they voted for him, and it's a substantial amount. Now, whether or not this subsection of people believe that the election was stolen, I can tell you for a fact, because I know some of them, some Trump supporters have long since said they accepted the results of the election. They've congratulated the other side, and they're ready to move on. So there are a substantial portion of Trump voters who voted for Donald Trump and voted for the Republican ticket who are Republicans. They're not being very vocal, but they're there. Okay. Now, the extremist element, the really big extremist element of Trump's base, there's the people that took the risk and went down to the Capitol. They're like their bona fide sold out. They are representing some people who did not go to the Capitol, and this is the dangerous part, who will also take action and be inspired by what happened down in the Capitol. Now, as to the other people, there's a common sentiment among Trump voters, or not Trump voters, but Trumpers, I'm going to call them Trumpers for now, who believe that something shady happened in the elections. And some of these Trumpers don't even have confidence in the Republicans in the Senate. So there are different versions of them. And let me just say that why I want to be careful about labeling people one way, because I was just watching a CNN broadcast where, this lady's saying they interviewed them and they talked with them, and it seems as though they're further faced from reality. While that may be the case for some of them, particularly with the elections, I can tell you for a fact, not all of them are fully brainwashed. That is the people who voted for Trump, not necessarily Trumpers, but voted for Trump. And a substantial portion of them has already acknowledged that Joe Biden won the election. The thing about this is that those people who have the sense, and trust me, Republicans in states, they're very sensible people. In fact, they're very cool people, just like Democrats. So on the state levels, it's okay. Now, on the national level, I've seen some politicians, and by the way, St. Louis has, they have distanced themselves from Josh Hawley. They said what he did was despicable, detestable, it is treasonous, and they want nothing to do with him. His sponsor actually has stopped sponsoring him. These are decent people. Some of these Trumpers actually live amongst really decent people in society. And when these Trumpers, do what they do, they actually put a bad reflection on the society they're in, which is a decent society. So this is very important to understand. Now, there are some who live in communities that think that way. But for the most part, there's a significant amount of Trumpers who come from decent places in society, but the internet has kind of linked some of these Trumpers together. Okay, so now that you understand it's much more complex than it meets the eye, that is why I said it's the people who went down to Washington, D.C. that need to be prosecuted. The senators who've been pushing divisiveness and pushing lies in the Senate, that should not, somebody need to do something about that to keep these guys honest, that they're sincerely expressing things. Because in a debate, let me give you an example. So in the debate, Josh Hawley, let's talk with the Senate first. Josh Hawley said, he made the allegations about, the legislature and the Constitution of Philadelphia being tarnished, right, by the mail-in ballots new legislature that came forward. How it violated their Constitution. Now, he was debunked by a Philadelphian senator. Okay, the Philadelphia senator said, well, listen, if you're saying that, then you have to say also that this legislature that was presented, which is in keeping with the Constitution of Philadelphia, by the way, was introduced by Republicans. It's you guys that introduced this. So how can you turn around after all of that, after a year of having this thing in place, after a year of running elections like this, okay, and say now, all of a sudden it's invalidated. It's a direct assault on the Constitution. Now, after a counter argument like that, You do not expect another senator to come behind him and say the same things and stonewall that argument. This is where the insincerity is in Congress and in the Senate. I remember, I believe it's Senator Coates. I think it's Senator Coates. I'm sorry, Representative Coates. Is it Coates? Something to do with sheep. Lamb. Senator Lamb gets up and he starts speaking about the falsehoods and the lies being propagated in the Congress. And he went straight up. He said, somebody got to tell the truth. He's a Democratic governor, representative. And he started speaking about how Philadelphia, one, there's no fraud there, and two, that the legislative challenge that they're making to the legislature to say that the electoral votes are invalidated because the process by which this extension of a period for mail-in ballots was done, that procedure was unconstitutional. He went back and answered that, okay? And he spoke about how it's in keeping with their laws and the Constitution that they were able to extend the deadline for mail-in ballots through the courts of law. And that's constitutionally acceptable. And if you don't think so, then you can debate it, but this is not the forum for that. If this is a forum for, let's say something has not been, let's say, for example, that there's no certification of electors in a given state, okay? Or two sets of electors are sent to Congress. This is where Congress will debate that. This is not the forum to debate that. These are certified results. You don't debate certified results. That's when the only way that Congress and the Senate should be debating results of election is when the states forward the results of the election to Congress, because they send two sets or two slates of electors. That's because the election is so close. They tried to do a runoff. They probably did a runoff twice, and they keep on getting in a dead heat. So it's sent to Congress for a vote. That's how it works. The way how the votes were used in Congress this time around, after ballots have been certified, is unconstitutional. And that's what people don't understand. Once a state has certified its results, unless the electors in that state, and it can happen where an elector decides to vote for somebody else, right? They put in their vote. It's happened before. Aberrant vote. So you end up with like equal votes or something where the person who was supposed to win didn't win because the electors decided to vote for somebody else, right? That is when it is forwarded. That's when it's forwarded to Congress or the Senate to vote on. You see? It's supposed to balance the scales to cater for some strange thing that happens where the electors decide to go rogue. All right? That's all it is. It was a contingency measure for that. It was not a contingency measure for where the states have already made the decision on certifying votes, and it's been sent down to Congress. Now, if the states, for example, certify, let's say the list of electors decide to go rogue and they sabotage the winner, and then the loser becomes the winner because they sabotage the winner, the electors of the winner, right? And it will go to Congress to debate. They will debate on that and decide, and then Congress will put the final vote. So the final vote tally in Congress will decide that matter. That's totally different. Or if there's a tie, the votes in Congress will decide the matter. So you have to understand that is what the purpose of that was for, constitutionally speaking. So all the Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz and all those congressmen, that were riling up about Arizona and Philadelphia, they couldn't get Michigan to go, they couldn't get Georgia, and they contested every single swing state. All the swing states, Wisconsin, I don't understand. You can't accept the results. It's a swing state. That's what it does. It swings one way or the other. Who knows? Michigan might swing Republican depending on who the candidate is the next time. The point anyway is the swing state worked just like a swing state. If it didn't work like a swing state, we'd have a problem. Georgia is the only state that behaved like a swing state this time. And the thing about it is, when you look at the down ballot, which you can't just change unless people who are doing the votes changing constantly the top part of the down ballot, which I mean, how are you going to do that? Like, how are you going to pull off that massive fraud while you're counting votes? That is not possible. So you're talking thousands upon thousands of fraud votes you got to do. So that what I'm saying is that this protest was in a result of it's based on racism, where the states that and the counties in the states that they're actually looking at are counties where Black people reside, whether it's Georgia with Fulton County, whether it's Pennsylvania with Philadelphia, whether it's Michigan with Detroit. You can see that they're contesting the places where the Black votes come. And you can tell there's a racist element to it. And so the point behind it is that they tried, Republicans have a history of suppressing the Black vote to win elections. And the thing about it is, this is why people need to understand your county elections, your local elections, your statewide elections are very important for you to come out and vote for your representation, because by doing so, you're able to get much more fair treatment and laws that will allow everyone to vote. You know what's the weirdest thing? I hear them saying, don't steal the vote, right? Stop the Steal came out. And I'm thinking to myself, stop the steal? Ninja, you're doing that. You're trying to steal the elections. You're trying to steal the elections, both through the judiciary, and then you're also trying to steal it through actual action. They tried to steal the vote. Everything that they said applies to them. Lock them up. It applies to them. Stop the steal. It applies to them and Donald Trump. It applies to them. They're the ones who are dirty like that. When they talk about twisting the laws and bending laws, to disenfranchise people or to subvert the legislature and the Constitution, that's what they do. That's what you've been doing for years. So stop telling us what's in your head and how corrupt you really are. So yes, when it comes to Donald Trump, he's gonna get impeached. But my whole point here with this video, lest I forget, is that no, a lot of Trump voters are not crazy. Misinformed, some of them are. Brainwashed, some of them are. But they're not crazy, most of them. Otherwise, you'd have seen far more people down in the Capitol, and it could have had a different result. Right? Now, some of those people, they're now in no-fly zones. They're now on the no-fly zone list, so they can't return to the Capitol, that's for sure. But they need to ID everyone, including the subversive ones who've been working in the background, the special forces and that kind of thing. They need to know who those people are, because they're going to be moving underground. And I would caution the people up in DC that those people should be coming down this week if they're not already on the grounds in DC. And you should check your tunnels. You should check all your secret passageways and all that shit, because, you should really have your alert on high alert. You should do all the satellite scanning of the area to make sure these people are not on the compound, on location. Who's to know if some of them left the city and actually flew out of the city? Some of them might be still in Washington, D.C. as we speak. So, like I said, it's very important that people, the Secret Service can't work alone. You got to work with Secret Service, FBI, CIA, the Metropolitan Police, the National Guard. They need to be coordinated. And what needs to work is a certain specific channels for specific people, so that none of Trumpians people and none of Donald Trump cannot affect it. And this is why, let me tell you the major reason why Donald Trump needs to be removed from office before the inauguration. He can block protection for the inauguration. He can get his minions to frustrate the process. It's imperative. I don't care what Joe Biden says. It's imperative that they get him out of there between now and Friday. They need to get him out of there. They need to get him out of there this week. Because I'm telling you, man, he got powers. He's got unlimited powers. And there's shit he can do to increase the vulnerability of the city. The only thing, now this is unconstitutional, but you have to just, people who are under his command might have to just ignore him and bypass him, effectively neutralize his presidency. Just don't obey anything he says, which would be unconstitutional. So you might as well remove him from office. He needs to leave. He needs to go. He needs to go. He is a danger. He's a national security to the United States of America. I'm not joking. Like, this is a logistic problem. Find a way to get him out of there. And Mike Pence, you can't hold this up. You're the guy that has to make sure that he goes. You're the guy that makes it. You have to make sure he goes, and make sure he goes immediately. Either he resigns or you take over. But he cannot stay in power much longer. He has too much power. The president has too much power, and he can cause a lot of danger and death in that city unless people decide constitutionally we're going to put aside the Constitution for a minute and just not obey him. So, Mike Pence, I don't know where you are. You might be in hiding. They may need to protect you, but you need to show up, and you need to show your face towards this man. And the Secret Service and detail need to protect you. And you need to go down to this man and a bilateral agreement where the Senate, the Congress, representatives of the Senate and the Congress go down with Mike Pence, along with members of the cabinet. Hopefully, there may be one or two members of the cabinet who are still there. You can't all have temps. I think Benjamin Carson might be still there. And Mike Pence needs to convince Benjamin Carson to get on board if he hasn't left the ship. And Benjamin Carson needs to understand procedure and loyalty. You cannot go all the way with this foolishness. You need to, the president's unfit for office, and you just have to be part of the team on that. So they need to get the members of cabinet that remain, the permanent members, not the ones that are not appointed by Senate, the ones who are appointed by Senate, and they need to convene, even if it's small numbers. The other thing is you can put it towards towards Congress. So Congress can vote on it, and then the Senate can vote on it. And then Mike Pence should go ahead and because you don't have to have cabinet, you can use the Congress and the vice president. So once that's put into effect, and that's what Pelosi wants to do. She wants to work with Mike Pence, because it's an absolute threat right now. We're on red alert. He is an absolute threat to the country right at this point in time. And that's why Twitter and all the social media outlets immediately took away everything. And I'm hearing people on Fox News again. And Fox News, somebody needs to sue them. I don't care if they feel they're victims and going after them. Fine, sue them. I'm not talking about Fox News in general. The Fox Newses that are found in the states and in each state and each area. Those more localized news outlets are very proper again and in order. But the Fox News that is used as entertainment, where people say any old shit that they want to come out of their mouth with no responsibility. No, you got to rope that in. Freedom within limits. That's reckless endangerment. File the case. Citizens, file the lawsuit in the courts. Keep on filing lawsuits in the courts. Put them under pressure. Make them have to go to court at every turn. OAN, same thing. You saw them have to do a disclaimer against when they started the libel against Dominion Machines and against the other company, and they sued them. And people need to start suing these companies. Sue them left, right, and center. Throw lawsuits at them like you will never stop. Sue them. Okay? But don't let these people get off the hook. Everybody's going to have to pay for their actions. Hold all of them accountable. That goes for OAN, Fox News, whatever other extremist right wing confetti that's going on. Right wingers are not supposed to be so extremist. Where are the moderate right wingers? Okay, so this is what I got to say. Um, so yes, there are a lot of Trump supporters and people who voted for Trump who are not under the illusion of the brainwashing that he has put on a significant portion of constituents. Yes, some of them think something may have gone wrong. They're kind of in between. They're like, oh, well, there probably was some fishy things that happened in there, but I believe that Joe Biden won the election. They will say something like that, right? They go along those lines. For which, once again, I'm not crazy about. Like that's not the problem. The usual normal thinking, reasoning human being will think along those lines because they don't have all the information, they don't have all the facts, or they haven't been following the story properly. But I think most people um, uh, realize the tactics that Donald Trump is doing. Most of Americans are not stupid. It's just a few very vocal ones. Now, Trump has hit a chord with some of them on certain issues, because Republicans take pride in being tough and hard and, having the resolution. So they take pride in that. Country folks take pride in honesty and straightforwardness and that kind of thing. So, they're going to be more pro-Trump than maybe other people and talk about his policies or whatever. But at the same time, they understand how severe this situation is, and a lot of them would have gone along with it. So there's a significant portion of them that would have, maybe about 30, 40%. But the majority of them, the next 60%, the next 50% wouldn't have probably done those things, wouldn't have proceeded that way. So that's important for people to know. Even though they take these polls, the next thing I need to know about Fox News is what kind of honesty do they have in their polls. They're getting these extraordinary high figures because of what kind of questions are they polling the people with. If they say, do you think that these elections were completely fair and completely clean? Of course, the average person is going to say no. There's no election that's completely fair and completely clean. There's always some sort of irregularity that goes on in it because of human error and some degree of fraud that might get away or whatever. So of course they're going to say no. So it depends on how they're couching their polls as well. So you have to, there's this right-wing media, propaganda, and you have left-wing media propaganda. People try to pick sides on certain things, which really you shouldn't be picking sides on. This is not about my team versus your team. This is serious business. So hopefully we get a bipartisan either impeachment, and it should happen this week. They can't wait. Every day that they stall on impeachment, every day they stall on how they deal with this issue is one day too late. So the clock isn't ticking anymore. The clock is ticking. Not ticking, taking. It's taking away from America's freedoms every time they hesitate and stall. So Congress needs to come through, and also the Senate. I think Congress will go through because the majority of Democrats is going to support that, and then you're going to have Republicans that support them as well. A substantial portion of the Republicans, as happened actually when passing the legislature for the certification of the votes. The majority of Republicans in the Senate, almost 90 something percent of them supported his certification, and I believe it was a little bit lower. It was about 60 something percent, or less than 60, 40 something percent of the Republicans in the House supported Joe Biden's certification of electorate certification. Is that something that's coming inside the yard? It's possible. Yeah. Somebody just came in here. All right, so why that's important for people to remember and to note somewhere in the recesses of their minds is because Republicans have been supporting. And I want people to understand there are certain Republicans who have been accusing the the system. For some reason, they actually saying Democrats did this. They're accusing Democrats, which sometimes have absolutely nothing to do with the process whatsoever, except encouraging people to vote or whatever. But they have been accusing Democrats of trying to steal the election, which is just so far-fetched and just so ridiculous. Seeing that most of the people who are adjudicated for these situations in the courts or the people who even formulated the laws in the first place were Republicans. So it's really strange to hear them accusing Democrats. It's like the weird thing when they started talking about Antifa, that it made no fucking sense whatsoever that Antifa was in there or whatever. When clearly, the people who actually broke into the Capitol and planned this things for weeks, they were Trump supporters. They were Trumpers. So that's absolutely ridiculous again. And so it's very important, in my opinion, that complete justice is served, which means this guy, and they should be quick with it. This shouldn't even take time. You just present the motion on the floor, and people wouldn't even need to debate anything. They should just, I mean, this is something that's not debatable. People be like, yes, okay, pass it. That's something that just passes on the floor, and they're just supposed to just pass that shit. It's like, yeah, okay, let's get him out of here. I think the best thing for them to do though is to confront him and request that he resign. That's the best. That's the best. That's the best. That's the cleanest way, I think. And give him the opportunity to make that choice. And so, in other words, give him the opportunity to go out on his terms instead of going out on the terms of the Senate and the Congress, or on the terms of his vice president and his cabinet. Because quite frankly, he's not very far away from getting, one way or the other. He have to leave. He's gonna get booted out. So this is what I gotta say. But he has to go. He has to go. And today is the first day. We're counting it down to get him out of there. And it's only a couple hours. You never know. In a couple hours' time, he might be gone. So we'll see. But they're putting immense pressure on him, I'm pretty sure. And putting pressure on. They better be putting pressure on him. Either way, he needs to go.